Our Taiwan research trip, or as I like to call it, the Journey to the East, was undertaken in September of 2023, devised by renowned military sci-fi authors Rosone and Miranda Watson, for the express purpose of finding out how Taiwan defends its right to exist amongst the angry neighbor in the mainland. In this adventure, we explored many significant areas of the Republic of China and learned about the land, people, culture, and even the military, so we could write them into stories where they shall defend the island, whatever the cost may be, and of course, blow stuff up. This trip was a little big. You could call it the Elder Scrolls Taiwan edition. As such, many explorations awaited us, and most of what we saw was not very well known to the world, as is many things about the ROC. Spanning a gigantic island formerly known as Formosa, we found many secrets, uncovered many details, and see just how prepared for the future the Republic of China really is. Here is what we did. So, I am now in Townsville Airport, about to get on my first plane to Sydney. Just when I thought my year couldn't get any bigger, it gets significantly bigger. How big? Let's find out together. Ready for an adventure? Here we go. So after that long and complex flight, I finally arrived well before everyone else did, in our first destination of Caesar Park Hotel, Bangshao, New Taipei City. Except I found it to be a little empty. This was 7 a.m, so the day had only just started. But give it time. Well, people, here we are at last. Taiwan. Unfortunately, I arrived well before the check-in time, and before everyone else I've mentioned before. So the day was just walking around and waiting. Eventually, slowly but surely, everyone else arrived, and after being rested and recuperated, we all met up. There was me, Miranda Watson, Jade Rosone, and Australian crime novella writer Liam Saville. So after spending the morning exploring Taiwan Family Mart and other shops in the mall, we took to the Taiwan National Museum. If we were to go through all the pictures I took, we would be here for hours. But really quickly, inside was a lot of Taiwanese history that many of us did not know about. So Taiwan, or Formosa as it was also called, was home to Taiwanese Aboriginals before being colonized by the Dutch, and then briefly the Spanish, before China's Qing dynasty took control of it for 200 years. Then China lost it to Japan as part of the Treaty of Shimonoseki after the First Sino-Japanese War, and Japan would colonize it and rule with an iron fist, before relinquishing it as part of the surrender in 1945. And then we went to the Evergreen Maritime Museum, detailing maritime history both in and outside of Taiwan, from vessels to the people within those vessels to where the vessels went. Yes, it turns out Taiwan is the owner of the Evergreen Shipping Company, and again, there were many, many portraits. It would take forever to just get through them now, so I'll have to leave them for another time. From there, we went to the Chiang Kai-shek Memorial Hall, dedicated to the Generalissimo and ruler of the Republic of China, whose government fled to Taiwan after losing to Mao's forces in the Chinese Civil War. There's a big statue of him inside. What kind of guy is he? He was indeed an iron-fisted ruler. I'm pretty sure he made that statue that big and that intimidating on purpose. So anyway, after that, we went our separate ways, and I explored the rest of the Memorial Hall and the surrounding park. Take a moment to indulge in its beauty, just like I did. So this is the flag of the Republic of China, a flag bearing the blue sky, white sun, and a holy red earth to represent the blood of the Qing dynasty revolutionaries. The next day was a day trip to the Keelung area. The first stop was Yelu Geopark. Then the Chufen Old Street. And of course, the Shifen Waterfall area. Isn't this just breathtaking? Take a moment to take it in.
Let's go.
Then this very interesting spot at the Shifen Old Road, where we could launch a sky lantern to join the others in the sky. The following day, Miranda, Liam and I went to the National Palace Museum, and boy, what a treasure trove of information it was. If you go to Taiwan, this is the one place to visit apparently. And it shows, very much so. Some of the artifacts on display range from thousands of years ago to just hundreds. Meanwhile, you have displays like these. The immersive theater is something else. And then there's this, which is just straight up magic. Well, Arthur C. Clarke did say that technology was indistinguishable from magic of old. It was at this point that we got lost in the wide variety of things we were seeing. We were learning things we didn't even know we found interesting. Maybe this would help out with stories to some extent, but we were just here, learning away.
It's not one of those interactive what I'd say, just as a pattern that plays.
The next day, it was back to research, and we began exploring strategically important areas across Taipei. Places that would prove useful in writing scenes for the upcoming books. So apparently, the water bottles are clear and occasionally blue, but the soy sauce is also clear and occasionally blue.
Here, I'm going to send you that photo via Messenger so you can have it.
Okay, I'll edit it in right now.
Let's see.
Man, that would have been something.
Yeah, that would have been bad. Well, it makes a lot of sense for you to say that.
Yeah. I have been to my fair share of historical invasion points over the years. Gallipoli, Milne Bay, Salamaua, Incheon. I've never seen a site that had potential to be one in the future.
French warship was yeah, that's correct. Land was surrounded on the Danton River mount outside of the Danton River. You can see the site outside the ocean and yeah.
And of course, here's a feature of Taipei you just cannot miss. Taipei 101. The world's tallest building from 2004 to 2009. And even today, with its 101 floors above the ground, it is exceeded only by the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. Taipei 101's postmodernist architectural style evokes traditional Asian aesthetics in a modern structure. The following morning, it was a train ride to our second stay. We went through Hualien County and various other places that were major settings for the later stages of the Monroe Doctrine series. So James was quite excited about seeing something that he had researched extensively before his very eyes. Oh, and the view and the place itself were very lovely to see as well. Okay, story time. So, I'm getting back from the Chiang Kai-shek Memorial, which you saw earlier in the video. So, we've split our separate ways. I met this guy from time to time, but yeah, and so I go up to this taxi, and it looks like he's in a bit of trouble, like he's checking his tires and stuff like that. So, at first I think, well, maybe he needs a few more minutes or something, but so I go up to him, and we had like that little exchange where it's like, I motioned to the phone, like for the address, and he motions something that I don't interpret. So I'm like, So I pull out my Google Translate, like you know what I'm saying, and I say, "Are you available?" To which he says, "Oh no, oh no, and, yeah, cue the so I go to the other taxi and say, "Can you take me to this place?" Which had potential to also go wrong. There you have it. And now for our second city to visit, Hualien. Now we're exploring Toroku National Park. Welcome to Hualien County. It is basically made of lands befitting a fantasy novel set in the Orient. It just brings out the fantasy writer within me, as well as the world traveler, and just the person who just likes to explore big mountains in general. And nothing I had seen thus far could match even these mountains. So on this episode of Exploring, we were invited to take a tour down a road leading into the mountains where Taiwanese Aboriginals have lived for generations. So far we had seen many beautiful things on this trip, but this site was unlike anything we had encountered thus far. The Shakadang Trail lies within Taroko National Park and contains enough sights to inspire the traveler within. This area, and pretty much all of Taroko, but especially this part, is a hidden gem among Hualien. You'll also notice that the water is almost unnaturally blue. That is due to the marble in this river, but on the other one, it's grey with a landslide that, get this, happened quite a while ago. It will still be a while before that water is blue. And here are the local macaque monkeys. The local thieves, more like. One of them snatched Liam's lunch out of his hands, the poor guy. With that out of the way, we decided to explore even further. Have a look at this, the Xiangde Temple. This is all in the village of Tianshan, located in the middle of the gorge, along the Central Cross Island Highway. If you're into hiking, Tianshan makes for a really nice base, as there are a few hiking trails that begin right there. And indeed, we had seen a fair share of pagodas and temples, some of which clung to the side of steep mountain faces, like you'd see on ancient Chinese paintings or postcards. And here is the Yangtze-Ko Trail, otherwise known as Swallow Grotto. This older portion of the highway diverges from the new that services vehicular traffic, and is meant to be walked to fully appreciate this marvel of nature. The Grotto Trail is interspersed with tunnels and overlooks the narrowest portion of the Taroko Gorge, where the river is most rapid. Due to the long-term erosion of Taroko by the Liwu River into an extremely narrow and deep valley, the marble cliff faces are scoured into hundreds of potholes, which have become natural nesting locations for swallows, hence the name.
When the national park set, according to the national park law, the first one just forbidden the generating, the mining, and any water. Today, because the swallow grotto closed, some rock quarry so that they cannot work.
Now here is something special. The Eternal Spring Shrine, also known as the Changchun Shrine. It commemorates the memory of 202 veterans who died while constructing the highway from 1956 to 1960. The name of the temple came from the Changchun Falls that never stopped running. The shrine is located right above the waterfall streams. Here's one of the most interesting inside displays, in my opinion, as it recreates an air traffic control. It even has a voice of the actual Hualien air traffic control. So this is a bunker of old, not very different from the bunkers of new, according to James. But it is here that I would man a machine gun and defend against the waves of advancing troops, slowly making progress towards that window. So this is what the inside of an air raid bunker looks like. And while we were touring this area, the local tactical fighter wing of F-16s of the Republic of China Air Force were flying over us. Here is the Zhuokang Trail. Aside from being a very beautiful scenic trail leading up to a waterfall, underneath our feet was an extensive underground hangar complex. Yes, this Jiashan Air Force Base is one of the most important defense installations on Taiwan, as it houses the military's most survivable aerial counterattack forces. From the view beyond the trees overlooking the airbase, we were able to piece together a complete image of it. And James, Miranda and I will certainly use it in the stories ahead. Just our luck that flying in the air was a rare sight. Drawn to the immense howl of its single turboprop engine, I was able to lay eyes on one of Taiwan's new Tenyung drones, the Cloud Rider. It is said to be able to carry armaments and conduct combat missions. And on the way back to the Airbnb, we saw a temple full of dragons. Not much else to say. Isn't it beautiful? By the end of that day, Miranda, Liam and I went to the night markets in Hualien. It was an evening stroll, a rather long evening stroll. We were definitely spoiled for choice in these night markets. And then there are these characters. I suppose they are town mascots or something. Meanwhile, high above, but not that high above, the F-16s were still conducting their routine flights. In fact, now is a good time to point out that People's Liberation Army Air Force flew at least 100 fighter jets into the air defense zone while we were in Taiwan. And just like that, they left. Which is a shame, because we had just rolled out the red carpet for them. The following day, it was a lengthy train ride to our third destination, Kaohsiung. Now we are at the Kaohsiung Marriott Hotel. My goodness, you guys. This is wild. This is the real thing. Okay, now I'm on the right floor. Goodness me. How long was... Oh, wow. So anyway, here we have Kaohsiung. Since it was founded in the 17th century, Kaohsiung has grown from a small trading village into the political and economic center of southern Taiwan. It is also of strategic importance to the nation as the city is the main port city of Taiwan. By the way, this display is called Absorbed by Light, about how we are being absorbed by our smartphones sitting on benches. I genuinely know how this feels, being the only guy not on his phone while everyone else is. Hey guys, look! It's Xi Jinping! I finally found him! Man, this new Dark Souls game is looking pretty good, isn't it?
Got a transformer.
Hey guys, look! It looks like a fusion between Bumblebee and Gundam.
Look at the side of the building, can't we?
We passed the pole and it's a shot.
Talia Jones is in that.
Yeah, our battle bots.
I'm a big fan. One of the famous handler Walter's hounds is here. Interesting. You ready to climb the wall? It's Snoopy. It's really Snoopy. The port of Kaohsiung is the largest and busiest harbor in Taiwan. More than 60% of the nation's exports and imports go through it. Also, it was quite a humid day during that walk. Looking at this footage reminds me of the heat that day. But it was worth the walk because we visited the British consulate at Takao, a museum dedicated to the early history of Kaohsiung's rise. The former consulate's building itself, which looks like something out of a George R.R. Martin novel in certain areas, was built in 1879, overlooking Takao Harbor, and the materials were brought over from the city of Amoy on mainland China. Now it is a historic site designated by the Ministry of Culture. And look at this site. It's like a wallpaper in motion.
We go in?
And later that night, it was everyone for themselves, as we took to shopping at the Sky Mall beneath our Kaohsiung Marriott Hotel. Of course, it is always recommended to at least shop a little bit while traveling abroad. And tonight was no exception. The next day was a really interesting one for the authors within. This was the open day of the Republic of China Marine Corps at Hualien Naval Base. Here we saw the various equipment of the Taiwanese Marines. This is Taiwan's largest naval base. The villages near it were first populated by soldiers of the Kuomintang, who came from different provinces of mainland China and gathered here after losing the Chinese Civil War in 1949. We were also treated to a visual media presentation about a true story on the naval base. We were then treated to an interview with a former commandant of the ROC Marines. Man, it was a great pleasure to be a part of that. I've never known anything quite like it. Once that was done, we indulged in the rest of the open day. Here's James with an anti-drone gun.
Yeah, I like to feel the weight.
But here's me packing 20mm heat on top of a Hummer. Oh yeah. And here are a pair of Marines from the Recon Force. Next to our tour guide and Marine connection, Lewis. This is just a preview of their Spartan training. They are the best of the best here in Taiwan. And then Miranda, Liam and I went to the National Science and Technology Museum later in the day. It's a Tamagotchi! Oh my goodness, they're still here! Once again, it would take all day to get through the photos I took in there. But basically, it detailed how Taiwan's industries, but especially its tech industry, rose to prominence. We are in space right now, which is actually quite fitting given that Rise of the Republic books are coming out again. Imagine being stuck in a tin can in the void and all you've got is that type of food. There seems to be no sign of life.
In other news, some guy named Alex Aronson is going to make a series where I star. Who would have thought?
Before time began, there was the Cube. Transformers references aside, this was a display dedicated to the world of robotics. And indeed, Taiwan has a fair amount to share in that field, as well as AI and automation, and various other things for the future. The various displays continued on and on. Eventually, our fascination got the better of us, and we would soon lose ourselves in these technological wonders, both advanced and simple. So that was Kaohsiung, and what a city it was. Now it is time for the closing act. We took a Taiwanese bullet train back to Taipei to see what we were unable to see in the first few days. This tour took us into very interesting places, like this Buddhist temple high up in the sky. So here's a little bit of history repeating itself. When I was in Korea, my last day, we had Italian for lunch. So, in the sequel, in 2023, we are also having Italian on the last day.
There you go.
Incroyable, non è vero?
And here is more port imagery, as James continued his research trip. And we did as well, while also admiring the view, and also talking about how cool it would be to fish here, because several others were.
Maybe a few tens of thousands of dollars of fish.
Yeah.
We also went past Hsinchu Air Base, which houses the Republic of China Air Force's Dassault Mirages. And here's another scenic view from Hualien Township in Miaoli County, with countless windmills powering the island, while reducing emissions and keeping it clean. Another big landscape of another strategically important area. There are so many locations to use in our stories now. It's unbelievable. We've learned so much. From this distance, it's like a real-life train set. And then there's the final view. This beach, which looks like something out of Frank Herbert's Dune, is within Guanyin district of Taoyuan City. One last sunset to finish off our great journey. On the other side is mainland China. It is said that the ocean that you see going beyond the horizon will one day become a battleground, but the Republic of China's forces will be ready. So what did you think of the trip so far?
Loved it. Definitely changed our opinions on how we have to approach this.
Did you get what you needed?
I think so. How about you?
Yep.
I think there's always more you can learn. I think you start off thinking you know something and then it changes everything and then you're like, whoa, I can learn so much more. That's the problem.
Yeah, no, it's just been fantastic. So, yeah, more than I expected, to be honest.
All right. Okay. If you were to say something to the Australian audience or potentially future Australian audience, like what would you say to that reader community?
It's just going to become pretty important in the coming years. So, expect a lot more books about it.
You heard him. Okay, so I'm now in the international terminal, waiting for my flight to start boarding. Thank you very much, Taiwan. You have been a very generous host of a nation. Hope to see you all again next time. Until then, that is all. So the next day, we went our separate ways, and I took the long journey back to Australia. Except, there is just one more stop on this trip of mine. You can see here as we pass over Mount Victoria, Hong Kong. I know all about the various astounding feats of Hong Kong International Airport. I can practically hear my lecturer in airport management during my time at Korean Aerospace University in 2017, talking about its various features and how it draws in many tourists from across the world. Going on old wisdom from this lecturer, I went shopping in the duty-free section for a few hours before my flight arrived in one of the 530 gates of this airport. Ah yes, overnight flying, my favorite, everybody loves it. I spend time watching stuff for 9.5 hours before skipping to the part of the video where I finally arrive at Sydney Airport. Here you can see the various stuff that I got while I was in both Taipei and Hong Kong at the last moment. And all my stuff is still here. Security didn't get scared. Good to know. And finally, I was back in Australia. You can tell not just by the flags, but also by the trees of New South Wales. There you have it. That was our adventure over the last few days. And even though that adventure is over, the greater journey is only beginning. Well, you see, we have indeed learned and experienced many new things across this great trip. We will now take that knowledge and experience forward into the future with our own creative projects. Some are already set in stone, while others continue to float in the air of speculation and early development. Rest assured, they will all be set in motion soon. Stories based on what we have seen, heard, and experienced in Taiwan, the Republic of China.